Hello and welcome to the 6th video of my Left 4 Dead 2 mapping tutorial series. This video will be covering spawning weapons and items for the player, along with randomizing the placement of the items. We can spawn guns to be picked up in game with a weapon_spawn entity. Place one down and open its properties. The selection property allows you to select which weapon this entity should spawn in game. You can pick any singular weapon you want or a range of weapons. It's pretty intuitive. Some of these options say tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 weapons are the weak weapons a campaign should start off with. The tier 2 weapons are the stronger weapons you find in later levels of a campaign. The count property dictates how many times you can pick a gun up off this entity before the entity runs out and disappears. Let's check out something new with Hammer, the flags tab of an entity's properties. Most entities have some flags that you can check to make the entity behave differently. For weapon_spawn, they're all self-explanatory. I'm gonna leave them all unchecked for now. I've made a selection of weapons this entity will spawn in game. Now I'll rotate it so it lays flat on the floor. Now let's get into spawning items. Place a weapon_item_spawn entity and open its properties. You'll see a lot of lines of item names and ones and zeros. Weapon item spawn uses these values as rules for what it can and cannot spawn. This entity will randomly pick any item that is set to 1. It'll ignore everything that is set to 0. For some reason, by default, boomer bile is turned off and ammo pile is on. Set boomer bile to 1 and ammo pile to 0. You'll also never want to set first aid kit to 1, because the director will dynamically change items to first aid kits in game if the survivors are struggling. To properly make an ammo pile, we'll need to use the weapon_ammo_spawn entity. Make one and open its properties. We have to pick a world model for this ammo pile to use. Technically you can choose any model, but if you want it to make sense, just stick with the ammo_stack.mdl and coffeeammo.mdl models. Similarly to weapon spawn, there's the count property. Set this if you really want to, but most of the time you'll just want the ammo piles to be infinite by going to flags and checking the infinite items flag. We can spawn the rare super weapons, that being the chainsaw, the M60 and the grenade launcher, with weapon item spawn as well. Alternatively, you can use their dedicated spawn entities, weapon_chainsaw_spawn, weapon_rifle_M60_spawn, and weapon_grenade_launcher_spawn. To spawn weapon upgrades, that being incendiary and explosive ammo and laser sights, you can use the entity upgrade_spawn. Create one and open its properties. Similarly to item spawn, you type 1 for any upgrade you want it to spawn, and 0 for any upgrade you don't. From my experience, laser sight boxes don't like to spawn if you don't have the must exist flag checked, but the other two upgrade packs work normally. Lastly, we can spawn melee weapons with weapon_melee_spawn. You can choose which melee weapons this will spawn on the line that says melee weapon. By default, it starts with any, which means it will spawn any melee weapon. If you want to specify what melee to spawn, you need to type in the name of the weapon. Listed on screen are the names for all the melee weapons in the game. If you want to specify more than one weapon, put a comma after the name and type the next one. Again, the count property returns, along with the same flags as before. Let's compile and see how some of these entities look in game. The gun in melee is there, the ammo pile works, and an item was spawned. If we keep reloading the map, we'll see different items and weapons spawn. But there's a problem here. Every time we play the map, every spawn entity will always spawn an item. We are lacking the randomness that makes Left 4 Dead, well, Left 4 Dead. That's no fun. We can fix this by putting an entity in our map called info_map_parameters. Info map parameters changes how weapons and items spawn in game. Instead of all the spawn entities in your map having an item ready every time you load in, info map parameters defines an amount of each item that can spawn in game, and uses all the applicable spawn entities as positions for where the item will spawn in game. For example, if I want 3 boomer biles to spawn and I have 10 weapon item spawn entities with the boomer biles set to 1, then 3 boomer biles will spawn in a randomly chosen 3 out of the 10 applicable weapon item spawn entities. Valve maps absolutely litter spawn entities everywhere around the map. For example, Dead Air's 4th map has 137 weapon item spawn entities. The high amount of spawn entities increases the amount of randomness, which in turn encourages exploration, which in turn increases replayability. If you want a spawn entity to guarantee an item or weapon to spawn, you can check the must exist flag, but use that sparingly because, like I said, randomness equals exploration equals replayability. Upon opening the info map parameters entity's properties, we'll be greeted with lots of random numbers. These numbers dictate the density of each respective item to spawn during gameplay. To determine the density value to put in, we need to open our map in-game. In our map, open the console and type in director_solve_item_density, followed by an amount of a specific item you want to be spawned in the map. This command requires a fully functioning nav mesh on your map. Refer to part 4 and 5 in this series where I go all over nav meshes, and come back when you're finished. With the command in place, I'll type in 3 for 3 boomer biles. It'll return that my map covers 0.4295 square 100 yards, and to set my map density for this item to 7.684. So I'll go back to hammer and change boomer bile density to 7.684. Now, 3 boomer biles will spawn in my map. Do this for all the other items here. Some are pretty vague, so I'll try to give a better explanation of them. Pistol density only affects the dedicated weapon_pistol_spawn entities, not weapon_spawn entities with the pistol selected. Same goes for magnum pistol density. Super weapon density affects chainsaws, grenade launchers, and M60s spawn with weapon_item_spawn or their dedicated spawn entities. Melee weapon density only works with weapon_melee_spawn entities, not inside a weapon_item_spawn. Ammo upgrade refers to the upgrade_spawn entity. Configurable weapon cluster range means that any 2 weapon_spawn entities or the aforementioned dedicated pistol and magnum spawn entities that are close to each other are considered one spawn. You'll frequently find pistol spawns in maps that look like 2 pistols next to each other. That's what this is referring to. It's actually just 2 pistol spawn entities that are close enough together to be considered one. Change the range if you do or don't want multiple spawns to be grouped together. Same rules apply for the item cluster range. In my previous video, we learned how to make a level transition work. And now that we know how to make weapon and item spawns, I'll be adding an addendum here covering how weapons and items translate over to the new map. The Saferooms should have a couple weapon spawn entities players can choose from, 4 dedicated weapon first aid kit spawn entities, and a weapon ammo spawn entity. The checkpoint nav attribute we use to mark the nav areas for the Saferoom forces every spawn entity to spawn a weapon or item in game, so we don't need to worry about checking must exist on them. These spawn entities need to be moved over to the next map, following the same process we laid out in the last video, making sure they are in the exact same positions relative to the info_landmark. So what's left to do now? Well, spam weapon_item_spawn entities everywhere, so you can maximize randomness. You can take a weapon item spawn with a configuration of entities you want it to spawn, copy it, and paste it quickly everywhere to speed up this process. To reiterate the theory of weapon and item spawns, we can learn lessons from what Valve does. As previously stated, Valve spams their maps with potential item spawns. Don't be too generous when setting the amount of items to spawn in the info map parameters entity. Throwing a Molotov or using pills should feel like a commitment. The player should not be confident that they can find another one around the corner. Choose an amount to spawn per item in the info map parameters entity that is balanced. Weapons and ammo can be randomized as well, but you need to be more careful. Valve typically has little randomness in the placement of weapon and ammo spawns. Most of the time they're set to be guaranteed spawns. People don't like playing without a gun and ammo, and making players explore obscure locations for something as basic as a gun to defend themselves isn't rewarding. But giving them too many guns and too much ammo removes any tension, similarly to items. You should test how far your ammo can last in portions of your map, and place weapons and ammo around the points that you run out. This concludes the 6th video of my Left 4 Dead 2 mapping tutorial series. Next video in this series will be a quick one about rescue closets. Thank you for watching.